Good evening. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Judy Ratner, and I am the superintendent here in Berkeley Heights. And it is my pleasure this evening to welcome you to our celebration of teaching. I would ask that everyone please stand so we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jerry Crisanino, Vice President of the Board of Education, to introduce this evening's program.
Thank you and good evening. On behalf of Board President Helen Kirsch and my fellow board colleagues, I would like to welcome everyone to our annual Teacher Appreciation Ceremony. Tonight is our opportunity to honor 6 of our best and brightest, and who represent countless numbers of their peers as educators of excellence. Who amongst us are not indebted to that special teacher, school nurse, child study team person, to name just a few, who inexplicably impacted our lives both in and out of the classroom? Mentor, role model, protector, and friend, these individuals helped to mold us into the person we are today. I am certain that each of us can identify at least one of these dedicated professionals whom we fondly remember as someone who really cared about instilling in each of us the knowledge, skills, and values that have enriched our lives on a daily basis. The role of educator, regardless of what job you perform in a school, is often one of long hours of planning lessons at home, worrying about students long after your workday is ended, and yes, even on the beaches of the Jersey Shore, the pondering of how you can make each day a little better for those precious jewels entrusted to you. So during this special night, please join us in honoring our unsung heroes, the Berkeley Heights Teachers of the Year.
Thank you, Dr. Crisanino. It is now my pleasure to introduce Grace Acosta, Assistant Principal at Columbia, and Tara Gerstner, Assistant Principal at Governor Livingston High School, who facilitated the selection process for our Teachers of the Year.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I stand before you this evening. This is one of our favorite times of the year as we celebrate and honor exceptional individuals who make extraordinary contributions in the lives of our students. In January, letters were sent and posted inviting parents, students, staff members, and community members to nominate teachers that they felt best exhibited the qualities of a Teacher of the Year. Based on these nominations, a committee comprised of prior Teachers of the Year, members of the PTO, and a board member met to complete the silent voting selection process.
I'm a little taller than she is. Ballots were counted, and our Teacher of the Year for 2013-2014 were selected. In early April, Mrs. Ratner, armed with flowers and balloons, took to the schools to surprise this year's recipients. As she entered classrooms, or in one instance, hid in the dark, curious students wanted to know why the superintendent was visiting with gifts. We would now like to turn the program back over to Mrs. Ratner as she honors and introduces each Teacher of the Year.
Thank you, Mrs. Acosta and Ms. Gerstner, for everything you did to make this program possible and so very special. I really appreciate it. So as I began to think about the celebration this evening, I thought about how much teaching reminds me in some respects of gardening. Just like a gardener plants seeds, provides nutrients, waters them, and watches them grow, a teacher plants the seeds of knowledge, sprinkles them with a very special kind of love, and patiently nurtures their growth to produce tomorrow's dreams. I was also reminded that Carl Jung once recognized that similarity when he shared One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feelings. The curriculum is so much necessary raw material, but warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of our child. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our 2014 Teachers of the Year, who every day help to nurture our students in order to produce tomorrow's dreams. And if I said that I was going to start with the Teacher of the Year from the school that had the largest cheering section, what school do you think I would start with? Mary Kay, very good. Okay, Mrs. Sangiovanni, would you come join me, please? They are so excited. Carol Sangiovanni, grade 1 teacher, is the Teacher of the Year for Mary Kay McMillan Early Childhood Center. Carol began her employment in the Berkeley Heights Public Schools in February 2000 as a help teacher at the Early Childhood Center at Hamilton Terrace School. She was appointed to a full-time position at the school the following November, and she has been teaching first grade at Mary Kay McMillan Early Childhood Center ever since. Carol contributes immensely to our school and spends an extraordinary amount of time and energy garnering resources, developing meaningful assessments to support the math program, sharing a wide repertoire of teaching approaches, and supporting her colleagues, explained Mrs. Annie Corley Hand, principal of Mary Kay McMillan. An outstanding teacher and a leader among her fellow teachers, Mrs. Sangiovanni has become the go-to person on all new initiatives, ranging from iPads to Go Math. Mrs. Sangiovanni earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary education and reading from East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania. Prior to her arrival in Berkeley Heights, she served as a kindergarten teacher at St. John the Apostle School in Clark, was employed in teaching and administrative positions at Roberts Walsh Business School in Union, and taught 5th grade at Battle Hill Elementary School in Union for a total of 8 years. Carol later earned her Master of Arts degree in Educational Leadership from the College of St. Elizabeth. During her years with the faculty of the Early Childhood Center, Mrs. Sangiovanni has been a member of the Faculty Advisory Committee, Site-Based Management Team, and School Goal Committee, in addition to serving on the district's Council on Instruction and Math Curriculum Committee. Carol has served as an administrative intern and as a workshop presenter. It is my honor to present Mrs. Carol Sangiovanni, the Teacher of the Year for Mary Kay McMillan.
Thank you, Mrs. Ratner, Mrs. Qualshi, Mrs. Corley, members of the Board of Education, teachers, parents, and students for giving me this great honor and allowing me to stand before you today. Congratulations to all the Teacher of the Year recipients. I was truly touched and surprised when Mrs. Ratner and the committee made their special delivery to announce this year's Teacher of the Year. Not realizing it was me, I walked right past the committee holding the flowers and the balloons. I was eager to learn which of my well-deserving colleagues was receiving the award this year. I am truly honored to have been chosen to represent the many teachers worthy of this award from Mary Kay McMillan. I have met wonderful people who have made me who I am as a teacher. I am a better person because of them. We often hear the expression that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a teaching community to raise a teacher. The students are the center of this community. First and foremost, I want to thank all my students and their families, past and present, who continue to motivate me each and every day. My students teach me every day what is important in life by letting me see life through the eyes of 6- and 7-year-old children. As my class told me today, since I am the Teacher of the Year, that makes them the Students of the Year. And yes, indeed, they are my Students of the Year, and I couldn't be happier to share this honor with them. We often hear that imitation is the best form of flattery. This is especially true if it's a 6-year-old child. I want to tell you about something that happened at the beginning of this year. In October, 2 parents were joining me for a conference. We had a lovely talk. We were finishing up and the parents were looking around the classroom. They noticed a chart that was hanging. It happened to be part of a new behavior plan that I was excited about because it was working well in our classroom. The parents said they had seen it before. I was so proud and pleased that they were familiar with this idea. After a few seconds pause, they told me that they had one hanging just like it in their playroom. It was created by their daughter, and she uses it for when she plays school. The next day, the family sent me a picture of their daughter's chart from the playroom. It was a perfect replica of the clip chart, complete with the names of all her stuffed animals in her classroom. My favorite part was that the stuffed animal clips were moved up to pink, which means that they were having a really super day. I was thrilled that it was worthy of replicating, and it was such a positive experience. I was touched by this picture. I think I showed it to everyone, including Mrs. Corley. I hung it in a special place in my classroom, and I still admire it today. Recently, copies of nomination letters were forwarded to the teachers. Attached to a letter was a copy of the same picture that had touched my heart in October. I couldn't believe that this family still remembered the picture. There's no better form of flattery than a first grader playing school at home. It is all of my first grade friends that make every day a super pink day for me. No one can get good at what they do without help. I thought back to all the people who have helped me along the way. Chances are you're sitting next to some of the people right now, the people that make every day a super pink day for you, your colleagues, your friends, administrators, and most of all, students and their families. I am fortunate to have my family here with me tonight. Thank you, Mrs. Ratner and Mrs. Qualshy, for your leadership, expertise, and dedication to creating a school community that is second to none. It is a privilege to be an educator in Berkeley Heights. Thank you, Mrs. Corley, for your passion for early childhood education. Without it, we would not be able to continue with the vision that Mary Kay McMillan had for the Early Childhood Center. Thank you to all my colleagues at Mary Kay McMillan, whom I represent. When I read the Teacher of the Year letter from Mrs. Ratner, the words "proud to be a representative" of Mary Kay stood out. It is exactly who I am. I am a representative of the many teachers worthy of this award from Mary Kay McMillan. A special thank you to our first grade team. There is no other talented, caring, enthusiastic group of colleagues like you. Each of you contributes experience, compassion, friendship, and especially your passion for education. You are always an inspiration to me. A most very special thank you to my family, my husband, Nick, whose love and support is always there, and to our children, Nick, Chris, and Lauren, who are loaded with their unique talents. I am so proud of all of you. I can remember beginning my first days of teaching at Mary Kay McMillan like it was yesterday. I was walking down the sunny-filled hallway in our building with a wonderful colleague, and she said to me, "You will be fine. Don't forget, just enjoy the kids. Everything else will fall into place." Well, it isn't always quite that easy, but it is a good message. As you start each day, please remember to enjoy the children, and I wish each and every one of you a super pink day. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to introduce our PTO president from Mary Kay McMillan Early Childhood Center, Mrs. Kelly Sheehan.
My name is Kelly Sheehan, and I'm so happy to be here tonight to honor all of the Teachers of the Year. What an accomplishment for all of you. Although neither of my children have had Mrs. Sangiovanni for a teacher, I have had the pleasure to know her for the last 4 years and believe she is one of the most dedicated teachers there is. It's obvious that her students adore her and her peers think of her as a leader. So on behalf of the Mary Kay McMillan PTO, I'm honored to congratulate Mrs. Carol Sangiovanni, Teacher of the Year for Mary Kay McMillan.
Mrs. Stolen, would you please join me? Karen Stolen is a grade 3 teacher at Thomas P. Hughes School. After being employed in the private sector for nearly a decade as a credit manager, office manager, and marketing director, Karen Stolen entered the field of education as a substitute teacher in the Watchung School District in 1987, and then in the Berkeley Heights Public Schools 4 years later. Mrs. Stolen was hired to her first full-time teaching job in November 1992, a grade 1 position at Mountain Park School. She moved over to Thomas P. Hughes School the following September, still teaching first grade, before moving up to grade 4 at Hughes in 1995. Karen primarily provided instruction in math and language arts to fourth graders before finally settling into her current assignment, grade 3 at Hughes School. Karen has demonstrated a strong commitment to our school district, as well as a great connection to our students and their families, said Mrs. Jessica Nordy, principal of Thomas P. Hughes School. She creates Team Stolen on her first day of school and continues to build on that team mentality throughout the school year. Her students know that their teacher truly cares about them, and Mrs. Stolen is invested in the success of each of her students, both academically and socially, and we are so lucky to have her on our staff. A graduate of Ohio's Steubenville University with her Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology, Mrs. Stolen earned her elementary school teacher certification through Kean University. She has served as safety patrol advisor, student council advisor, and social decision-making advisor at Hughes School, in addition to being a member of the Principal's Advisory Committee, Textbook Review Committee, Affirmative Action Committee, and Council on Instruction. This is the second time that Mrs. Stolen has been honored as a Teacher of the Year. She was chosen for the same recognition during the 2002-2003 school year. Hughes Teacher of the School Year, Mrs. Karen Stolen.
Thank you. You're taller than I am. Thank you. I'm a little nervous, so I've got Team Stolen ready, because if I get brain freeze, I'm going to phone a friend. I just want to say that when you walked in, Mrs. Ratner, that day on, I think it was April 7th, we were scattered all over the room. Kids were on the floor, they had books spread out, they were spread out, some of them were with me on the computer, and I had no idea that you were standing at the door with flowers and balloons, and yeah, exactly. And I'm there completely oblivious to all this going on until finally the kids said to me, Mrs. Stolen, there's people at the door. I said, what? There's people at the door, and they've got balloons and flowers. Something's going on. So I turned, and of course, I froze. And then you walked in. The kids knew exactly what was going on. They broke out into, happy birthday to you. Right? Am I right? It was hysterical. So they're all singing happy birthday. But anyway, I can't begin to tell you how much this award means to me. But I'm going to try. Awards like the Teacher of the Year are both humbling and motivating. I'd like to thank all of the members of the committee who had the very difficult job of selecting a very few out of a very many who could just as easily have been chosen. I'd like to deeply thank the parents, grandparent, and student who took the time to write such beautiful nomination letters for me. After spending the time to write this speech, I even more appreciate the time that you took to write those letters. Being recognized for the time and extra effort we as teachers put in is very gratifying, but the real reward is seeing the difference we make in the lives of the kids we teach. I'm looking at you. In reading the nomination letters, I was struck by how much what I say in the classroom each day gets taken home and repeated. That's scary. I mean, when you think about it, it made me aware of the influence that teachers have over the students that we teach every day. It's a huge responsibility. I try to remind myself each morning that the mood I'm in and the way I greet the kids at the door is going to set the tone for the day. The way I respond to what they say or what they ask, what they tell me, is all going to impact them, for better or for worse. It really hits home when you run into students, where's Mukta? When you run into students you've had years ago, and they repeat the things that they remember about your classroom. Talk about pressure. I mean, a student today just came up to me, and she told me what she remembered the first day of school. She's now a senior, graduating this year, and she's telling me what I said to her when I taught her in 4th grade, how many years ago. This is my 22nd year of teaching. My first year was at Mountain Park, as you said, and then I was at U since then. And I had substituted before that. So you'd think that with all this going on, I would have learned a little something. So many things have changed. I'm sure that for most of the people in this room, you would have no idea how to use a mimeograph machine to make copies, or remember what those lovely purple inked copies smelled like. Now we use copy machines when it's working. And that can do any number of tasks for us: scanning, emailing, sorting, hole punching, stapling, copying, and all at the same time. We've gone from chalkboards to Promethean boards. We have wonderful document cameras, thank you very much, which we love. Mine's called Elmo. Instead of the old overhead projectors, we have computers and iPads to access all kinds of useful information for us and our students so that we can produce fabulous lessons. So, I'm always wondering why, with all these years of experience and this amazing technology, why hasn't my job gotten any easier? I never feel caught up at the end of the day, and even if I stayed 2 more hours longer than I already do, I still would not be done. So no matter how many devices they come up with to help us do our jobs more efficiently, the bottom line is that our jobs are about reaching children, and there is no shortcut for that. My day is not going to get shorter or my job easier, and that's just the way it is. But there are rewards that teaching has. For example, I have the autonomy to set up my classroom the way I want it and to decorate it without any concern for what Bobby thinks, my husband, sorry Bob, or anyone else's opinion. I can design my lessons to reflect my own style of teaching, which might include an occasional song or dance. And on a nice day, I can decide that a 15-minute outside lesson on how to skip somehow fits into our curriculum. Right, guys? I can read to my class with great expression and do all the voices myself. I guess what I'm saying is that teaching really gives me the opportunity to be creative and express myself in a way that another job couldn't. I think working with children also helps to keep you young. Although I would be lying if I didn't admit that some days have aged me considerably. Overall, though, to be surrounded by youth is a good thing. We learn so much from the kids. I'd like to share some advice that my students have given me over the years. Actually, this is this year's class. Each year I ask the kids to write down things that they like that I did over the year and things that they think I should change. I tell them it's completely anonymous. I don't even check their handwriting, because you know, we could do that, but I don't. So I don't try to figure out who said what. So they're free to say whatever they want and be totally honest. Here are just a few. Some are touching, some not so much, but I think it really shows what matters to the kids. Top 10 improvements needed in my classroom. Number 1, you should show us more videos and YouTubes to help us understand more. Number 2, that was yours. Okay, see, and I didn't know. Number 2, we should go outside more to get more fresh air. And that was from you? Okay, number 3, I would prefer if you would send us home with goodie bags before each break. Number 4, I think we should have more time to draw. Number 5, you should let us have snacks in class. This is all very educational. I'm writing this all down. I hope you are too. Number 6, you should not make us write so much unless we want to. Number 7, you should give us time to write more. Number 8, please try to call on everyone equally, because when I am called on, it helps me concentrate. That's a really good point. Number 9, I'd like you to change your, and believe me, I did not change a word on this. I'd like you to change your wardrobe from old to sold, because I'd like to see some cool new clothes. What is wrong with this? Trade it? All right. And 10, I would change the date for writing in script. December is way too early. Okay, so here's the 10 things that they think I do right, and I should keep the same. Number 1, I like that you taught us to write in script so fast and so well. Okay. Number 2, I like how you are enthusiastic when you read. It makes the book more interesting. Number 3, I like when you let us have extra recess sometimes. Number 4, I like when you let us go to the computer room to type our essays instead of writing them. Number 5, you are funny and make not fun things fun things. Number 6, I like when you are only strict when the class gets out of control, unlike the teachers on TV shows or movies. I don't know what shows or movies those are with the mean teachers, but I'm glad I'm better than them. Number 7, I like the 100-point system so that we can have a party or watch a movie or go outside. Do you hear a theme resonating throughout what the kids really like? Yeah, it has nothing to do with my teaching. Number 8, the dancing you do makes us understand it better. Number 9, I love how you do the math chants. It really is improving my learning. And number 10, I like that when one of us are sad and you realize and try to cheer us up, it makes me feel like I'm in a safe and caring class. Thank you. I take the advice the students give me each year and try to pick out what will help me. So here's my advice to all the hardworking teachers out there. Keep any positive emails, notes, or letters you receive from both parents and students, and read them whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or underappreciated. Turn to your trusted colleagues when you are drowning in the alphabet soup of MLPs, PDPs, SGOs, PLCs, and PPOs. That's what I did this year. Remember to congratulate yourself for a job well done, and don't beat yourself up on the days nothing goes as planned. Try to soak up your students' energy without letting them drain yours. And finally, learn to sing or dance or maybe do magic tricks, because somehow that makes the students believe you're teaching them better. In conclusion, I would like to thank the District of Berkeley Heights for giving me every opportunity to grow professionally. I would like to thank the many parents who have been so supportive over the years, and especially the parents I have worked so closely with this year. I've enjoyed your many responses to my many emails. I would like to thank my colleagues who are also my friends and have pulled me up when I felt like I was going down, or have celebrated with me when times have been great, like now. I know it's not easy to come back to school after you go home and have so much else to do. I want to thank my terrific students who make it fun and challenging for me to come to school each day. No spelling test tomorrow. Yes, that's what makes me Teacher of the Year. Finally, I want to thank Bob for having the wood-burning stove going throughout this very cold winter and not getting too mad at me for getting home from school too late. I'm going to leave you with a little saying that one of my students put on a sticky star note, and I keep it on my computer. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Thank you all for coming.
I'd like to introduce Mrs. Elizabeth Kane, PTO President of Hughes School.
I almost made it without crying, thanks. Mrs. Stolen makes such genuine and lasting connections with her students and inspires in them a true love of learning. Her energy and enthusiasm is truly infectious. She treats the students with respect and gets that same level of respect back. Mrs. Stolen has made a lasting impression on my own daughter to believe in herself personally and her skills even more than before. Mrs. Stolen has even personally encouraged me to get back into teaching. Yes. Naming her as the Teacher of the Year is an honor that is quite deserved. On behalf of the Thomas P. Hughes Elementary School PTO, we We would like to congratulate Mrs. Karen Stolling on being named Teacher of the Year.
Love you, thank you.
Mr. Sean Waller. Mr. Waller is the grade 5 teacher at William Woodruff School and began his teaching career in January 2000 as a grade 5 teacher at Lincoln School in Englewood, New Jersey. That September, he was hired as a 4th grade teacher at William Woodruff School. Mr. Waller moved up to grade 5 at Woodruff in September 2001, and he has been in that role ever since, teaching primarily social studies and language arts over the past 13 years. Mr. Waller is a fine teacher who knows how to tap into his students' interests and get them excited about learning, said Ms. Patricia Gasparini, principal of Woodruff School. This is best demonstrated when we see his students walk into the pages of history through role-playing, portraying great explorers, or a commoner during the American Revolution. Being a good citizen is not just a social studies lesson, but a lesson in life in Mr. Waller's class. He works with his students through literature, writing, and film to teach them the values of perseverance, determination, tolerance, and caring. After earning his Bachelor of Arts degree in speech communication from the State University of New York at Oneonta, Mr. Waller was employed for 5 years as television director, camera operator, editor for a live nightly business report that was broadcast on 200 PBS stations nationwide. Shortly thereafter, Sean made the successful transition into teaching and later earned his Master of Arts degree in classroom instruction and curriculum from Kean University. During his time at Woodruff School, he has served as the school safety patrol advisor, as a member of the school goal committee, best practice committee, social studies textbook committee, social studies curriculum committee, and as the coordinator of the William Woodruff School Character Education Program. Mr. Waller was honored as Teacher of the Year at William Woodruff for the 2005-2006 school year. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sean Waller.
Thank you. I'm going to thank a bunch of people tonight. First, I'd like to thank my family. My wife, Reva, she is the best support and really understands that although my work problems or issues often don't seem monumental in the grand scheme of things, they are important in my world. For example, one day she and a buddy of mine, they both work in the city, hedge funds, whatever they do, and so they were coming home, they had a really bad day, and they come to our house for a drink afterwards. They were sitting down and they're complaining, oh man, I had a really bad deal today. I don't think I'm gonna get my bonus. And my wife said, yeah, we lost that $500 million deal. I don't think it's gonna be really good this year. And I'm like, yeah, I know how you feel. And my buddy says, what do you mean? I said, well, we had a faculty meeting today to decide what we should wear for Halloween. And nobody can make a decision. It was a nightmare. And my buddy looks at me, he's like, really? But my wife looks at me and she gets it. Although, again, monumentally, not a big deal. It's a big deal in my world. She didn't belittle it. She gets it, and she's the best teammate. My 5th grade daughter, Maddie, I sometimes try out jokes on her that I'm thinking about using in class. She says, Dad, no. Please don't do that to your students. Of course, I do them anyway. She warns me that they aren't funny, and she's right. I love the 5th graders, but I truly love my 5th grader. And my 2nd grader, Naomi, nobody keeps me more humble than her. The day I won the award, I went home and I was excited, and I said to Naomi, hey, Daddy won Teacher of the Year. And she looked up at me and she said, can I go on the computer and watch My Little Pony? Which reminds me, basically, that to her, I'm not a teacher, I'm just Daddy, and I love that. I also want to thank and acknowledge Cassie Locatelli. We team teach this year. So really, Cassie, this isn't my award, this is our award. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank my students. The other day, one of them, Sophia Rocco, who's in the audience right now, interviewed me for our school newspaper that we're doing with the writing club. One question was, what's the best thing about being a teacher? And clearly, there's only one answer: the students. I learned so much from them, and they make me laugh every day. I get to work in an environment where I laugh every day, multiple times a day. Most of the time, they don't even know they're funny. That's what makes them so funny. It's kind of like, work with me here, it's kind of like having 23 different pets. Each one requires different care. Some are like cats. You let them out. You don't see them again until the end of the day. Very low maintenance. That's cool. That works for them. Some are like dogs. You need to train them. And often it's difficult. But once you do, they get it and they obey. Some are like mice. The little white mice with all the energy running around the wheel. That energy, you can't stop it. You can only hope to contain it and point it in the right direction before they're off and running again. Still, others are like goldfish. Every lap around the fish tank's a new day. But you love them all, and you miss them terribly when they move on. So Jenny, who's here tonight, Sophia, Francesca, Desmond, and Olivia Mastier from last year, thank you guys for letting me steer you in the right direction, letting me leave you alone, and letting me train you when necessary. And lastly, it was mentioned before that I did win this award in 2006, and it's no coincidence that I had a paraprofessional in my class with me that year named Donna Lodato. It was a great year. She was a teacher aide, but only by title. She was way more than that. She was a partner, she was a manager. Donna was a therapist, both for the students and me, and she was a friend. Last year, which I personally think was one of my best years teaching, I had 5 paraprofessionals in my classroom, often 3 at a time. I had Denise Piatnachka, who has an amazing ability to help students through their work without doing the work for them. She leads, she guides, and she allows students to be successful at their own pace. And she completely rocks the headband look. I had Eileen Delato, who's the voice of reason in our chaotic classroom. Eileen was excellent at knowing when to jump in and when to pull back. Eileen had balance. There was Colleen Manganello, who truly is a saint, and a fireman. Many fires were put out because of Colleen's fast action and her incredible, incessant pleasantness and calmness. There was Lou Ottens, the gentle giant. Look, you can't be Lou's size and not be intimidating. I wish I was that size, just for 1 week. Yet no student ever feared Lou, quite the opposite. He knew how to talk to the kids. He could joke with them and laugh with them, yet take care of business when business needed taken care of. And finally, there was Kathy Mahalski, who I've had the extreme pleasure of working with for so many years. Nobody knows how to diffuse a situation better than Kathy Mahalski. She has a sense of humor that the kids completely relate to, and she also commands the students' respect. Kathy has a gift. Kathy is a gift. And this year, I won Teacher of the Year, and I have the honor of working with Denise again, Marion Sturpey, Joanne Casino, and Tracy Lowenstein. Tracy is another saint. She never has a bad day, or at least it never seems like she has a bad day. She's always smiling, even when there's reason not to be. No one is more nurturing and sensitive to students' needs than Tracy. And there are so many others. Kim McLeod, Michelle Da Silva, and all the other paraprofessionals in all the other schools throughout the district. There are probably times, many times, when you guys feel underappreciated. And I want you to know that I appreciate you, as do many of the teachers, if not most of the teachers in the district. And we wouldn't be Teachers of the Year without you. It's no coincidence that I am at my best when there's a paraprofessional in the room with me. I'm a very good teacher, but they make my classroom a great place to be. I work hard, but they do hard work. I excel because I have excellent people working with me. I'm up here getting all the credit and the plaque, but you, the paraprofessionals, deserve the recognition. I wish I could give you the award, but I can't, and to be honest, it's going to look nice on my wall. But what I can give you is thanks. And I can give you this opportunity to be recognized and applauded by your colleagues and the community. So if you can give a round of applause for the paraprofessionals. And for the Woodruff paraprofessionals, I actually can give you something. I can give you my coveted Teacher of the Year parking spot. So thank you, and have a great night.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Miss Eva Dooley.
That's a tough act to follow. As PTO president, it is my pleasure and honor to represent the Woodruff School PTO in tonight's presentation of our own Teacher of the Year, Mr. Sean Waller. As a parent of a 5th grade student, I know him to have high expectations for student performance, completely supported by his inventive and engaging teaching techniques. Ask any 5th grader about Mr. Waller and their eyes light up as they describe his sense of humor, as you can see tonight, his singing and dancing in the classroom, and he even reads or makes up poetry, encouraging poetry to the class before a history test or a geography quiz. They take note of all of that. Clearly, he is appreciated by parents, students, and fellow faculty. Please join me in thanking him on behalf of our parents, teachers, and students for his excellence in the classroom and his genuine care and concern for all of his students.
Mrs. Stacy Saravay, will you join me, please? Stacy is a grade 5 teacher at Mountain Park School. She's been a member of the faculty at Mountain Park since January of 2005, when she was hired as a grade 2 teacher. Mrs. Saravay taught 2nd grade for 8 years prior to moving up to her current assignment of grade 5 social studies and reading teacher at the beginning of this school year. This year marks the 2nd time that she is being honored as Mountain Park's Teacher of the Year. She was chosen for the same recognition of her efforts in the classroom during the 2007-2008 year. Stacy Saravay never fails to set the standard when it comes to all characteristics that describe a quality educator, said John Morriso, principal of Mountain Park School. And this year, she went above and beyond when she willingly and exceptionally transitioned from 2nd grade to 5th grade. Whether it's collegial support and interaction, lesson preparedness, organization, and presentation of instruction, or parent-guardian communication, Mrs. Saravay always exceeds expectations. Stacy earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in history from Harvard University and received her Juris Doctor degree from Harvard Law School 3 years later. Stacy was employed as an attorney for 4.5 years. Shortly thereafter, she began her gravitation toward the field of education by serving as an instructor for the Berkeley Heights Recreation Department and through her volunteer activities at her children's schools and with the Berkeley Heights Education Foundation. Mrs. Saravay then completed her teacher certification coursework and student teaching through Kean University. During her years at Mountain Park, Stacy has been a member of the Professional Learning Community Committee, School Professional Development Committee, Math Curriculum Committee, and Safety Committee, in addition to having served as a mentor for a student teacher, as the PTO faculty representative, and as a presenter to the Board of Education on technology topics. It's an honor to present Mrs. Stacy Saravay as Mountain Park's Teacher of the Year.
Good evening. Boy, it's a lot more daunting to present to all of you than it is to my 5th graders, but I'm going to pretend that you're 5th graders right now. And I want to start by accepting this honor on behalf of all the incredible teachers I've known over the years. I wouldn't be here tonight if it weren't for all the assistance that I've received during my teaching career. So I'd like to thank the people who have helped me along the way, especially my colleagues, my friends. Working at Mountain Park with all of you has been such a gift. I especially want to thank Carla Pastor and Joanne Stanek, who have made my first year of teaching as a fifth grade teacher so wonderful. We always say that the three of us together are one good brain. I wish I had them here with me right now at the podium. I also want to thank my principal, John Morriso, and all of the hardworking and dedicated administrators, school staff, and Board of Education members who really also deserve our recognition and acknowledgement for all that they do to help the teachers in Berkeley Heights deliver a first-class education to our children. Of course, I must thank my wonderful family for all their support. My very patient husband, Adam, never blinked an eye when I told him I was abandoning my career as an attorney and going back to school to become a teacher. Adam, along with my sons, Zach and Scott, have encouraged me every step of the way. They've taken the journey with me, literally and figuratively. When we go on vacations and there are educational sites nearby, I've dragged them along. Thanks, guys, for going on the Freedom Trail with me, visiting Williamsburg and Jamestown, touring the monuments and museums of Washington, D.C., stopping at the Plains of Abraham in Quebec, and Sean, I know you know what that is, and going to Philadelphia and stopping at every place Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin set foot. I think I'm really fun on vacation. Also, since I spend so much time on my schoolwork, I'm not always the best of cooks, and my family puts up with that. My sons fondly and frequently tell their friends that I do a really good job of making coppolas or delicious heights for dinner. I'm also extremely grateful to the terrific students and families that I've worked with over the years. This year, I moved into fifth grade, and I became the social studies teacher for the whole grade, and it has been a blast, mostly because fifth graders are passionate and curious learners who can think critically about the issues that we encounter, and they ask the most insightful questions. Teaching a subject that I love so much and working with such an amazing group of students is rejuvenating. In fifth grade, our curriculum covers many interesting topics with an emphasis on American history up to the Civil War, and I love that. It's so much fun to make history come alive for the students and to encourage them to visit places that I love in order to explore our history. It's also a lot of fun teaching students to become critical readers and writers through the social studies curriculum. And for a social studies geek like me, nothing beats seeing my students turn into history buffs. I'm very excited to continue my journey as a teacher in Berkeley Heights. Thank you all for acknowledging me for doing something that I love so much.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Angela Penna, President of the Mountain Park PTO.
Mrs. Saravay, on behalf of the Mountain Park PTO, I would like to congratulate you on being this year's Teacher of the Year recipient for Mountain Park. I am especially pleased and honored that I'm able to stand here today and present you with this gift as a small token of our appreciation. Mrs. Saravay has taught both my younger children, so I am very fortunate to have experienced firsthand her constant dedication, support, and encouragement towards all her students, regardless of their abilities or challenges. She is constantly introducing new and innovative ways to help them be the best that they can possibly be and help them feel good about their accomplishments. Everyone you ask, students and adults alike, have nothing but praise for her. To sum it up, Mrs. Saravay, I'd like to read a quote from one of your former students. "She is the best teacher ever. Not only is she fun, but we actually learn a lot too. It's just the way she teaches."
Mrs. Emily Senna, will you join me, please? Mrs. Senna is a grade 6 teacher of mathematics at Columbia Middle School. Emily has been teaching grade 6 classes at Columbia since September of 1999, providing instruction in mathematics and language arts for over a dozen years before focusing strictly on math during the current academic year. Prior to her arrival in Berkeley Heights, Mrs. Senna was employed as a publicist for 2 different publishing firms, in addition to serving as a volunteer tutor with the East Harlem Tutorial Program in New York for 2 years. Mrs. Senna earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, before receiving her Master's of Education degree in elementary education from the University of Maryland. I am thrilled to see such a dedicated professional receive the honor of Teacher of the Year, said Mr. Frank Geiger, principal of Columbia Middle School. Mrs. Senna provides so much for her 6th graders, expanding both their mathematics and social skills. Students know her as a teacher they can turn to for any kind of assistance. Emily is always learning new ideas and strategies for use in the classroom. Her fellow teachers consider her a bright, caring colleague who works hard every single day to create the best environment possible for each student. During her years at Columbia Middle School, Mrs. Senna has served as yearbook advisor, mathathon coordinator, literary luncheons facilitator, and as a member of the school-level professional development committee. In addition to having been a workshop presenter, a mentor for first-year teacher, and a participant in the Rutgers Partnership for Excellence in Middle School Mathematics. It's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Emily Senna, Columbia Middle School Teacher of the Year.
I know. Put it up a little. Thank you. Just like it said that it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a community to support a teacher. I'd like to thank my community, Mrs. Ratner and Mrs. Qualshy, members of the Board of Education, Mr. Geiger and Mrs. Acosta, my colleagues, my students and their parents, and my family, who have all played a role in my teaching this year. This is such an honor to be recognized for the hard work that I do, and it comes with such great rewards. That's why I love teaching. Life is full of surprises and takes us on many adventures, and I never thought I'd be standing here. I started my working career in publishing and followed my love of literature. But as much as I loved working with books, I longed for a chance to be in a classroom, working with kids, helping them pursue an education. And teaching has led me to be in that dynamic setting where every day is different, and you never know what new challenge you may face each day. I think that's something teachers and students share. From day one at Columbia Middle School, my colleagues have been an amazing team with which to work. The atmosphere of collaboration and support as we strive for the best for our students makes working with my 6th grade team a joy. We certainly are inspired by the wonderful students we get to teach every day, who are curious, engaged, and fun to be with. I've learned this year that you have to be careful what you wish for. Just as I was starting to think that things were becoming status quo and wouldn't it be nice to shake things up a bit, the Common Core standards infiltrated the curriculum. Columbia moved to a rotate and drop schedule, and my schedule switched, teaching one subject. I had mixed feelings about only teaching math this year because it meant giving up teaching my other love, which is English. But it's been really valuable being able to focus on just one subject. I've had the opportunity to be part of the Rutgers, New Jersey Partnership for Excellence in Middle School Mathematics these past 2 years, which has aided my transition to teaching math in the age of the Common Core standards. This unique program has brought me into a cohort of excellent math teachers from around the state that have been very inspiring to me. My principal, Frank Geiger, has been very supportive as well and encouraging in allowing me to try new things in my classroom every day and welcomed my Rutgers classmates to observe in our school this year. Most of all, my students have been willing participants as I've tried new ideas in teaching math. They built colorful towers. They didn't know why, but they were exploring exponents, figured out combinations of pizza toppings without getting to eat the pizza, designed zoos, helped raise money to sponsor animals from Heifer International, and reflected on how all of that problem solving made them feel. Just as every new day at Columbia brings new challenges for me and my students, and some days I feel I'll never get it right, most days my students do amazing things, and I feel so proud that I was able to make those experiences happen for them. Thank you so much for this acknowledgement of that hard work. It's an honor to receive this award.
It's an honor to introduce Mrs. Donna Mukhtaris, President of the Columbia Middle School PTO.
Hi, everybody. My name's Donna Mukhtaris, and I'm the PTO president at Columbia. And there are many duties that we have as PTO presidents, and I have to say that serving on the selection committee is one of the best jobs. We get to read all of the fabulous things that the students and parents have to say about all of these wonderful teachers. So students, please keep sending in the letters about your teachers. Parents, it's so wonderful to read about all of the teachers in our district. And to all the teachers out there, thank you for continuing to inspire us as families to want to write about you. It's a fabulous thing. Congratulations to all the teachers that were nominated. And on behalf of Columbia PTO, we'd like to thank you for being our Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
Ms. Christine Tallarico, will you join me, please? Ms. Tallarico, I guess it's good that the first graders got a little late for them so they could leave. So that Christine Tallarico is a teacher of English here at Governor Livingston High School. She began her teaching at Governor Livingston in September of 2009 after having served as a teacher of English and French at Park Ridge High School for 6 months earlier that year. During her nearly 5 years at GL, Christine has taught several courses within the school's English department, including English 2 Honors, Introduction to Theater Arts, Backstage Theater Workshop, Acting Workshop, and Public Speaking. Mrs. Tallarico is an extraordinarily talented educator who is committed to inspiring her students in all that she does, explains Scott McKinney, principal of GL. Whether it is in the classroom or on the Davis Auditorium stage, her students are prepared for success and they exude her contagious enthusiasm. Christine works tirelessly to enhance her instructional efforts, engage her students, and make GL a great high school. She is certainly worthy of recognition as Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Tallarico earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in English and French from Drew University, and she is currently in the process of completing coursework for her Master of Arts degree in English at Rutgers State University. Christine has served as co-director of the Fall Play and School Musical at Governor Livingston during the past 4 years, lending her talent and leadership to the outstanding GL Hilltop Players productions of Beauty and the Beast, Children of Eden, Footloose, Little Shop of Horrors, among others. During this time, she has also served as advisor to the GLHS chapter of the International Thespian Society, as a coordinator of coffee house events at the school, and as a buddy to a first-year teacher. It's my honor to introduce Ms. Christine Tallarico, Teacher of the Year.
Good evening. And thank you to Mrs. Ratner and the entire administration. I am humbled to be acknowledged as GL's Teacher of the Year and grateful for the privilege of speaking here tonight. As a student, I learned that I did my best work for teachers who cared about me and encouraged my efforts. I wanted those teachers to be proud of me, so I pushed myself to do my very best for them. When I first found myself in a classroom of my own, I realized, just as students do better work when they're invested in a teacher's class, teachers do better work when they are inspired by the school and its culture. I am so grateful to this district community as a whole, because without the terrific people around me, I would not be challenging myself to do more and to do better with each passing day. When I hear the familiar ping alerting me to a new message on First Class, I am often moved by what I see. Students email me over the weekend, eager to tell me about books they finished, like Abby, who expressed through caps lock her shock and frustration with the conclusion of Mice and Men. Administrators contact us to acknowledge significant achievements and everyday efforts. My supervisor, Lori, recently copied me on an email to some of my students who went to the middle school shows, thanking them for supporting the younger students in district. She kept track of who went and reached out to them about it. Her gesture meant so much to those students and to me. Parents communicate to support my work in the classroom, looking to help their students achieve success. My colleagues send out emails about events they've organized or successful student endeavors they've supported. How can I not want to be my best when surrounded by such outstanding people? When the school day begins, I get to spend time with students who take pride in their work, who provide support for struggling classmates, who come in before school because they are so eager to discuss a paper topic they've come up with. I get to spend lunch with students who visit room 125 just because. These students include Scott and Mukta, who knew I was prepping for a comp exam for my master's in English, and offered to read challenging books in their spare time and discuss them with me to help me review. How can I not work harder to challenge these students and foster their love of learning? I get visits from students who know I love dessert, bringing me extra cookies and pastries they've made in cooking class. Some are better than others, but the sentiment is the same. I hear from alumni who know my taste in music and literature, like Maria and Casey, who share books and albums with me and tell me about their lives at college. How can I not be inspired to be as generous and as thoughtful as they are? When the school day ends, I am lucky enough to work with my casts, who spend every spare moment reviewing their lines, music, accents, or movement, perhaps to the dismay of others around them, and my crews, who beg me to get permission for them to go into the building late in the evening or on weekends, grateful to put in countless hours of hard work. I get to collaborate with my production team, whose enthusiasm and friendship keep me motivated, and whose tireless efforts never cease to amaze me. How can I not do everything in my power to support these wonderful people? So I thank you again for acknowledging me as Teacher of the Year. As someone who always wanted to be a teacher and believes in the power of education, this is one of the most meaningful honors I could ever receive. But thank you also for making a place for me in this district where I want to be the best educator I can possibly be, because I am surrounded by such remarkable people. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Ms. Anjali Marotra, President of the PTO at GL.
GL is truly fortunate to have a teacher as gifted as Mrs. Tallarico. She's a perennial favorite in both her theater and her English classes, and as my daughters can attest, her students find her engaging and relatable. Often mistaken as a student herself, she has quite a following. Her classroom, as she's mentioned herself, is popular hangout at lunchtime. On behalf of the GL PTO, it is my honor to recognize Mrs. Christine Tallarico as the Governor Livingston Teacher of the Year.
So we have had an opportunity to share brief celebration in each of those schools, whether it was hiding in a classroom waiting for the teacher to enter or just entering the classroom with the balloon and flowers. All of our teachers will be attending a breakfast in their honor on Wednesday, May 28th at Keene University with all of the district honorees of Union County. So as I conclude our celebration this evening, I want to thank all of our honorees for taking a hand, opening a mind, and touching a heart, because you are very wise and truly see that the future is in every single child's eyes. Thank you.